Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another beautiful night here in Eastlake, Ohio. It is September 9th, and this is the Cleveland Sports 360 show with your host, LG. And trust me, he's got a lot of crap to talk about tonight. Right, LG?
Crap is right, Leaf.
It's all yours, buddy. You just take it away.
Hey, welcome back to another episode of the Cleveland Sports 360 show. We're all still alive after the big disappointment called the Cleveland Browns took to the field yesterday and got their butts handed to them by the Miami Dolphins, a team that the Cleveland Browns, under this new leadership, this new regime, this new coaching staff, was supposed to win. We were supposed to be joined live on the set by the July winner of the Cleveland Sports 360 Girl of the Month contest winner, Justeena. But Justeena got called away. She's a Playboy golf model, and she's got to be down in Texas tonight. She's going to the airport as we speak. We're going to hear from her live on the phone lines. Justeena's going to give us a call any minute, and we're going to go live to the phone lines and talk to Justeena, the beautiful Justeena. She's a high fashion model, and she works all over the world. So there you have it, folks. I think I hear the phone ringing now, and I think Justeena is going to come on to the Cleveland Sports 360 show. Justeena, are you there?
Hi, how are you?
I'm doing fantastic. How are you, Justeena? Ladies and gentlemen,
great.
This is Justeena calling us. She's in transit. Obviously, you got called away to go to Texas, right?
I have last minute business to take care of.
Well, that sounds fantastic. At least you're keeping busy. I mean, it's got to be
Hello.
Tell us a little bit about yourself, Justeena. We lost her.
Oh. Well, I'm sorry about that, folks. We'll see if she calls back in.
Mute it. What the heck happened, Leaf? Mute that channel, Leaf.
I haven't the slightest idea. She must have went ahead and turned her head and cut off the line or something.
Well, you know how it is when you're traveling and talking on a cell phone. But, ladies and gentlemen, let's get to the Cleveland Browns and the Miami Dolphins yesterday. Obviously, the Browns fell to the Miami Dolphins in the season opener, something that Clevelanders are used to happening. After all, we've won one home opener in the 14 years that the Browns have taken to the field. It was a disgusting game. We didn't see anything that we could really think of a positive other than the Browns defense was able to stop the run. They were able to stop the run so overwhelmingly that Quill Jackson, the linebacker from the Cleveland Browns, who's the team captain as well, says the Browns can stop the run coming from anybody. So there you have it, folks. We don't expect any team to be able to run the football on the Cleveland Browns this year. It's going to be interesting to see what happens when the Browns travel to Baltimore this Sunday to take on the Baltimore Ravens in Game 2. The Ravens are going to be a pissed-off team looking to get a victory, seeing how every team in the AFC North lost in Week 1. We got another call, Leaf.
Yeah, LG, we got a guy, Jim V. Do you know who this is?
I have no idea.
Well, you know what? He's coming on right now.
Jim, how you doing, buddy?
Hey, well, I would be doing better if Weeden wasn't the starter.
Well, that's what happens, man. I mean, tell us what your take is on the Cleveland Browns game yesterday, Jim.
Here's the problem I have. If my fiance was... she's from Columbus. She's a Ohio State fan, but she's not a student of the game of football. But when she sees and makes the comment, this quarterback, the Browns, doesn't look like he has a clue what he's doing. Now, if she can see that, what about our so-called professional coaches? I'm serious. I mean, this is deja vu all over again.
Jim, unfortunately, it's been like pissing into a fan with this Brandon Weeden as the Browns quarterback. This is his sophomore season in the NFL. Obviously, Weeden doesn't have the tools. he doesn't have the tools to be successful in the NFL. He doesn't have it between the ears. He's got 2 left feet. He's very immobile. We saw it yesterday. He tried to run.
There's the key. There's the key right there. He is not mobile. And like Coach Sam and Hanford Dixon, I think, was on Channel 5 last night. You know, he is not a up-to-date quarterback. He's not there.
You know, the funny...
And he doesn't have it.
You know, the funny thing about Hanford Dixon is he's blowing both sides of the wind, man. I mean, this guy, before the game, he's telling us what a great quarterback Brandon Weeden is, and then following the game, Hanford Dixon tells you what a piece of shit quarterback Brandon Weeden is. Why don't Hanford make up his mind and see what everybody else is seeing, that this guy just doesn't have the tools to play NFL caliber football, man?
No, I've never seen it. Of course, if they can't be on the show, if they're not, they can't come right out and say it. But Coach Sam said it as politely as he could. Kind of beat around the bush about it, but Weeden doesn't have it, and anybody defending him, it's not a personality. I don't have nothing against the guy. He might be a great guy in the world. He doesn't belong to the NFL.
Yeah, that's really something. Hold that thought for a minute, Jim. Hold that thought. Click over that phone real quick. We're going to come right back to you, Jim. Don't hang up. Click it over, Leaf.
Okay.
Hey, this is Cleveland Sports 360. You're on the air with LG. Who do we have? Was this Justeena?
Hi.
Hey, Justeena, we lost you for a minute.
Hi.
How you doing?
I'm sorry, I got cut off.
That happens with these cell phones. Hey, but listen, we want to wish you good luck, and I hear you're going to be able to come down to the Cleveland Sports 360 show next Monday night, right?
Yeah, I'm going to try to make it in next Monday night, and I just want to say thank you for all of your support this year, and I'm really honored to be part of the calendar, and I'm looking forward to meeting with you soon.
Oh, it's going to be fantastic, and we got your prize waiting for you right here, so when you get back, make sure you come down next Monday night at 7 p.m., and obviously we're ready to talk about the Browns' losses, and we're going to Baltimore. We'll be able to talk about the Browns' losses again next week, I have a feeling. Don't you?
Yeah, definitely. Well, it would be okay if the quarterback stopped letting everyone take the ball.
Well, this is Brandon Weeden night here on the Cleveland Sports 360 show, because the caller right before you, Justeena, had the same thoughts, that Brandon Weeden has problems. But listen, good luck. Thanks for calling us. We're going to let you get on your plane and get down to Texas and do what you do best. Look fantastic.
Thanks so much. Make sure you check out the website at www.justeena.com.
Okay, we'll do it. Tell us that name one more time.
It's www.justeena.com.
There you have it, folks. Get on www.justeena.com. All right, good luck, sweetheart. I'll see you
Thanks
next
so much.
Monday.
Bye.
There you have it, folks. Click it over, Leaf. We got Jim. Jim, you still with us, Jim? Jim? Hello?
Yeah, I'm still here.
Hey, thanks for holding on. I'm sorry about that. We had Justeena right before you. We lost her. She called us back. But, Jim, tell us, even Justeena just called in. She's a fashion model. She was the winner of the July Cleveland Sports 360 Girl of the Month contest. You don't have your computer volume turned up, do you, Jim?
I'm trying to give me a second here to mute this.
Yeah, try to turn that volume down, man, because it's feeding back.
I got it now.
There you go. But like I said, tell us what's your thoughts on Brandon Weeden. Do you think Coach Chazinski should do the right thing and pull this guy out of the starting lineup right now?
Right now, don't go any further. And I have this problem with. Did you read Terry Pluto's False Start?
Not very often.
You haven't read it. He wrote the book when he was still here in Akron at the Akron Beacon Journal. That talked about how the Browns came back and we had all these big names in football with putting it together. Their names slipped my mind. Then you get Holcomb. He came in just for his $10 million. He wasn't going to stay. He didn't do anything. I don't understand. I can't believe that what they see in this man.
Well, you know what the problem is? The Holmgren regime. I agree with you 100%, Jim. That Mike Holmgren came here and he was strictly interested in taking a paycheck from the Cleveland Browns. I have to wonder. A lot of people don't realize this, and I've stated it over and over and over again on the ClevelandSports360.com website. Mike Holmgren forced Tom Heckert to draft Brandon Weeden. Tom Heckert did not want to pick Brandon Weeden in the first round of the NFL draft. Holmgren pulled rank on him, and he made Tom Heckert draft Brandon Weeden. So do you think that Holmgren secretly knew that the Browns were going to be sold to Jimmy Haslam, and part of the plan was, you know what, we're going to stick him with this Brandon Weeden, and I'm going to be out of here anyway, so what difference does it make? I mean, I know it sounds like a conspiracy, but come on, Holmgren didn't do anything. Know.
I used to say, this is what I used to say prior to Haslam buying the team. We've gone through umpteen coaches, everything, the players, everything has changed, but the problem still exists. It's the owner, which I totally still agree that was, my mind just went blank. Randy Lerner, that was the problem. He was more interested in the soccer over in England. But now we've changed owners who's got a problem. However, but we got the same Browns.
Absolutely.
And I know they've got some talented players there. But, one guy jumped on LT about what he wrote, and I said, hey, knucklehead, two things. Number one, what do other quarterbacks in the NFL do when their protection starts to collapse? Number two, San Francisco has Colt McCoy as their backup quarterback.
Yeah, now there's a guy that wasn't good enough to play. There's a guy that wasn't good enough to play for the Cleveland Browns, and I don't know. Did you get a chance to watch Colt McCoy play in any preseason games this year, Jim?
No, I didn't.
I'll tell you what I did. I watched the third preseason game at the San Francisco 49ers, and Colt McCoy actually played almost the entire half of that game. And McCoy did a lot of good things, and I'll tell you what, everybody thinks McCoy's got a weak arm. Joe Montana never had the strongest arm of all these NFL quarterbacks, but yet he's got 4 Super Bowl rings.
I'll go you one better than that. I think I've written this in a reply. I'm 68 years old. I went from my mother's bosom to being a Browns fan.
Exactly.
I was there in 1964, freezing my butt off when they beat the Baltimore Colts for the championship. That little hill they had at the back of the end zone and the old municipal stadium. I could see them. I could eye contact. I was right there. Now, the reason I say this is one thing. What was the night? Doesn't have God. Wouldn't Brian Sipe? Wouldn't you love that?
Now you're breaking up a little bit on us, Jim. Somehow your phone's breaking up a little bit. You got to go back to where you were.
Okay, I got to. Let me try this.
That's good, right there. Don't move.
Okay. All right. Anyway, I don't know if you heard what I said. I'd love to have Brian Sipe back.
Yeah.
He didn't have the arm either.
No, but I'll tell you what Brian Sipe had. He was a very highly intelligent quarterback, and I spent a lot of time with Sam Ratigliano myself. I had the honor of emceeing Sam's Inner Circle golf outing last year, and I'll tell you, Sam's a class act. And one thing Sam always told me was there's no I in team, but there's 2 I's in idiot. And Weeden fills the bill of being an idiot. The guy can't think. He can't make a decision. If we gave him the best offensive line protection, I know yesterday Schwartz had some problems, and God knows Cousins had a lot of problems. But if we gave him, last year Brandon Weeden was one of the best protected quarterbacks by the offensive line of any team in the NFL, and we still saw Brandon Weeden in total quarterback ranking. ESPN does a total quarterback ranking. Let me just give you some numbers here, Jim. Weeden's total quarterback ranking last year was in 27th place. Okay, he had a 27 was his total quarterback ranking. This year, after week 1, he's ranked. He's one above the last place guy. Last year he was ranked 33 with a total quarterback ranking of 27. So out of 36 quarterbacks that played in the NFL last year, Weeden was 33 with a 27. This year he's at 16.2 after 1 week. He's in 27th place out of 28 guys. So tell me, Jim, where's the improvement we were hearing about from Norv Turner and Rob Chudzinski coming into the 2013 season? Are you seeing a much more improved Brandon Weeden or not?
No, I see a worse one. I'll take you back to when they drafted Colt McCoy, and he played in the preseason games, and he was kind of made to me like Josh Cribbs. I liked him from day one. You know, I liked it. He could throw real well on the run, and not everything's going to go way downfield with that big arm. But Colt McCoy never had a good shot at it, and I disliked Anderson terribly.
Right.
I don't care, but Weeden makes Anderson look like. Tom Brady, I guess. I don't know.
Let me get your opinion on one other thing. I know it's kind of early in the career of Rob Chudzinski as a head coach of the Cleveland Browns, but are you starting to question the hiring of Rob Chudzinski by Jimmy Haslam and Joe Banner? I mean, after what we saw yesterday, and after all, it is the head coach's responsibility to assess the talent that he puts in for the starters. And when he put Cousins on the offensive line over Gilkey, I thought to myself, where the heck did this decision come from? Now, after we watched the play of the offensive line yesterday with Cousins in there and the amount of penalties he got, why didn't Chudzinski try to make a switch in mid-game? I mean, there was a lot of penalties that Cousins got throughout the entire game. It wasn't just in the first quarter. It wasn't like he was improving as time went on. Why didn't he sit this guy down and put the other guy in, Gilkey? What's your opinion on Chudzinski so far as a head coach of the Cleveland Browns and what his abilities are to assess the talent level that this team has?
I really don't. I don't have enough yet. I just don't know enough. I mean, remember, who was it was too young? Belichick? Or no, who was coach for the Steelers? The retired.
Oh, yeah, Bill Cowher.
Cowher, yeah, he was too young, Modell said. So, I don't know. I can't make that judgment. But the only thing that really bothers me is I'm seeing the same thing. I'm seeing the same play, but with different actors.
Well, that's exactly right.
And I can't believe that Richardson had the ball, what?
13 times. 13 times for 47 yards.
What the hell is wrong with these people?
You know, what really fries me, Jim, is if you look at Richardson's statistics coming out of the game yesterday, he had 13 carries for 47 yards. He had 2 receptions coming out of the backfield for 30 yards. That's a 15-yard per reception average. Why did they go away from that if it was working that well? I mean, if I'm going to have a guy that can catch a ball and get to the outside and get me 15 yards every time, wouldn't you do it until the Miami Dolphins were able to stop it, Jim?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it was like they had they had a tap on the play calling. They knew there was not going to. They knew when Richardson wasn't in there that they weren't going to run. They didn't have anybody else to run.
Well, obviously, we got rid of everybody else. I mean, I didn't understand that either, why we would get rid of Brandon Jackson. I understand Jackson's not the best running back in the entire. It's almost like we're seeing the Cleveland Browns being set up to fail this season in Cleveland, Jim.
Well, that's what Jerry Pluto's book was about. False start. It was like they were created back in 1999. I came back I lived in Texas for 18 years. Browns were always number one for me, but I followed the Oilers. I came back and I couldn't believe all the big names they had in football, yet they sucked. The only one, and I didn't like him, was Butch Davis, but he got us to the playoffs.
Right. Well, don't forget, Romeo Crennel had that 1 year at 10-6, and we didn't make the playoffs.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
So, out of 14 years, we had 2 winning seasons, and that's what people think I'm a hater and I don't like the Cleveland Browns. Well, I'm kind of like you, Jim. I grew up a Cleveland Browns fan. My father watched Browns games every single time they were on. I mean, I go back to, Leroy Kelly, Bill Nelson. I mean, I remember when Jim Brown was playing, Lou Groza, all those guys, man. I started watching the Browns in the very early 1960s. And I've been watching them and rooting for this team ever since, man. But what I'm tired of is losing after in the last 5 years, we're either 5-11 or 4-12. I mean, enough's enough, isn't it, Jim?
Yeah, but it's just like anything else. So you are LG, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. LG, it's like business. As long, I always kind of felt, this is my opinion, that if any stadium should have been enclosed, it should be the Cleveland Stadium. But still, with that said, as long as they fill those seats every Sunday, they're not going to do nothing different.
Yeah, and there was well over 70. There was well over 71,000 in attendance yesterday, and I agree with you, Jim. I think it's a that's where the Browns fans got it wrong. Sure, they are the greatest fans in the NFL, but until they stop buying tickets and until they stop filling these seats, we are not going to see serious change come to the Cleveland Browns. And one thing I got to tell you, Jim, is if you look around, you look at the Indianapolis Colts. They had Peyton Manning, and then now they got Andrew Luck. You look at the Washington.
Everybody thought that Indianapolis was going to fold up because of not having Peyton Manning.
Oh my God, this Luck! They're already got him. I think they already cleared a space for him in the Hall of Fame. If he stays,
I believe so.
Yeah, if he stays healthy, nothing but good things are going to come Andrew Luck's way. But I got to tell you, why doesn't Cleveland go out and get a marquee player like that? We seen it a couple years ago in the draft. We passed over Julio Jones. I mean, we've passed over. We could have had A.J. Green, the guy that's a big-time receiver for the Cincinnati Bengals. Cleveland refuses to bring in the top talented players coming out of the college drafts, and until we change and until we figure we're going to get these guys, and I don't think that change is going to come with Joe Banner being the Browns CEO, because Joe Banner is a penny pitching guy that Jimmy Haslam brought in here, and if you look at the record, I mean, he cut guys off of the Philadelphia Eagles team that made 2 more Pro Bowls with the Denver Broncos, Jim.
Well, I gotta tell you this. I'm a half student of the game, but my best friend, who's 21 years younger than me, in his 40s, he's an absolute positive student of the game. He should have been a professional coach. Now he watches everything he can get about it. And here's what he told me. And he told me this probably 5 years ago. Nobody wants to come to the Cleveland Browns. Nobody of any caliber wants to play for the Cleveland Browns.
Well, that's why I wrote an article this morning. I thought about it all night, and I wrote an article this morning. It was titled that Trent Richardson is probably he's probably embarrassed to be a Cleveland Brown, because I got to tell you something. Here's a guy that was supposed to be a beast running back. You saw what he did down in Alabama. I'm not saying he's going to have the same career. As a matter of fact, I'm starting to fear he's not going to have the career that he had in Alabama, Jim. But he's got to be embarrassed to be part of this Cleveland Browns organization, because 13 carries for 47 yards makes him look like a schmuck, pardon the term.
And as they keep saying, like the head coaches, like Richigliano says, and I've heard it so many times, running backs get better the more carries they get. And and I've always found that to be true. It seems to be anyway. But I am totally lost. I have no idea what's going on with that organization because, again, we got the same Cleveland Browns, but all the actors have changed.
Absolutely. It's the same thing that we see year after year after year. But, Jim, let me ask you a question. I mean, you saw the Browns when they were winning football games, obviously, back
absolutely.
in the 80s. And you saw how you were a successful football team, and some of that success was running that football, and we always had two guys, Ernest Biner, Kevin Mack, Leroy Kelly. We had Mike Pruitt, Greg Pruitt. You always had these two guys. One guy would stay there and help the quarterback survive if a blitz was coming, or they would, call a running play, and the other guy would block for the. We got nobody out there doing this for Trent Richardson. How long do you think a guy like Trent Richardson is going to last in the NFL, taking the amount of hits that he's taken? Lawrence Vickers is sitting on his butt in Beaumont, Texas.
Sitting on his I was just going to say that. He opened it up for Hillis.
Absolutely.
And, and they let him go.
Yeah, well, they let him walk right out of Cleveland without even giving him. I had Lawrence Vickers on the Cleveland Sports 360 show a couple of weeks ago, and he's sitting on his butt in Beaumont, Texas. He had a minor back surgery after he left the Dallas Cowboys, okay? And Vickers would come into Cleveland. The experience that a Lawrence Vickers has. Vickers doesn't want a whole lot of money, Jim. He would come in here for, probably $1 million contract or less, and he would show these guys how to be successful in run blocking. Not only would a Lawrence Vickers help a guy like Trent Richardson, he would be a tremendous help to the Cleveland Browns quarterbacks, and he would be a tremendous help to the Cleveland Browns offensive line.
That's what's amazing, LG, is if we can see this, well, you're much more experienced and knowledgeable of the game than I am. But, it's like I brought up about my fiance, and she's 69 years old. I'm 68.
Right.
She's sitting here watching. I mean, this is what really...
You went after a cougar, is what you're telling us, Jim.
Well, yeah. Well, she likes younger men.
Yeah, but, that's where I'm starting to really question.
That guy doesn't belong in the NFL.
Right.
And, here's a woman that doesn't. She watches it mainly because of me, and she can see it.
Well, when somebody sucks that bad, it's not hard to see, Jim. I mean, I hate to bash the guy as much as I bash him, but the truth is the truth is the truth. And until somebody can see this truth, let's face it, Joe Banner and Michael Lombardi, they do not like Brandon Weeden. Why? You know what? We should have seen this coming after what we saw in the third preseason game against the Indianapolis Colts. It's the first time the Browns faced a pass rush that was any significance. You see what they did against the team they played. The Colts sacked the New York Giants quarterback 6 times Sunday night before the Browns played them, and then we weren't ready to take on the Indianapolis Colts, and Weeden didn't do nothing in that game. He couldn't get the offense down the field. He couldn't get the offense in the end zone. We should have seen yesterday coming, and I got to tell you, I saw it coming. I saw it coming the moment the Cleveland Browns kept Brandon Weeden on the roster over the winter, over the offseason.
Yeah, that's when I saw it too, LG. It makes about as much sense as a screen door in a submarine.
Exactly, Jim. And I'll tell you, Jim, can you hang on the phone a minute? We got to take a little break. We'll come right back with more of the Cleveland Sports 360 show. Don't hang up, Jim. We're going to mute the phone, but we're going to come right back in about 2 minutes, okay?
You got it, partner.
Where we used to be, do we all feel the same?
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Cleveland Sports 360, and we've got one hell of a heated argument going over Weeden with your host, LG, and our caller in right now, Jim B. Guys, you take it away again.
Hey, welcome back to the Cleveland Sports 360 show. I am your host, LG, and on the phones is Jim. Jim, you still with us, buddy?
I'm still with you, LG.
Fantastic. Jim, I just have to ask you this question. Obviously, you're old enough to remember championship Cleveland Browns football. Tell our viewers just a little bit about your experiences as a Brown fan one more time.
Hey, it started when I was probably 8 or 9 years old when that was like after church. We watched the Browns. I don't care. We had a den. The den wasn't that big, but everybody in the family was in there to watch the Browns. My dad was a beer drinker, and then as we got older, so were my brother and I, brother-in-laws. We would set the beer cooler right outside the door of the den, so we didn't have to walk all the way to the kitchen to get one. I mean, that's my brother, who was a businessman, advertised on one of the radio stations. He got season tickets, so I got to see a lot of games. It's just what the Browns were, and I'm sure the younger guys can't really understand it, but it's like family.
Absolutely, and that's the thing, that's the thing. We have a new generation of Browns fans, Jim, that don't even have a taste of what winning Browns football was all about. We really haven't had a winning Browns football team since the 80s when Bernie Kosar was out there on the field. Speaking of Bernie Kosar, Jim, what's your opinion of a guy like Bernie Kosar hanging around the greater Cleveland area and the Cleveland Browns never ever reaching out to Kosar and trying to at least get him in there as a quarterback coach or something?
I that's a little mystifying to me. I absolutely loves the Browns, and just like me, I will to my grave. But I don't understand. Just like Holmgren got rid of Jim Brown to come in.
Right.
I got to say, Haslam at least brought him back to the fold.
Okay, hold on. Hold that thought a minute, Jim. Hold on 1 minute, Jim. We're going to come right back to you. Go ahead, Leaf. Try it.
Go ahead,
Cleveland Sports 360 show. Is there somebody there? Hello?
It's still me.
Okay, it's still Jim. We lost the other call. That's okay. I don't think bringing Jim Brown back for Haslam, the only thing, I don't think that's going to help this Cleveland Browns football team in 2013 win, though. It was a nice move, but I don't see where it's doing anything to improve the play of the team. Do you, Jim?
No. Yeah, well, maybe you might be able to help with a couple of them. I know he probably brought them back into some of these younger guys that first thing they got to do is run out and, with their entourage and get two, big diamonds in their ears and, start hanging out in the bars. But,
absolutely.
But I had to the younger people listening, let me explain something to you. I remember when Pittsburgh Steelers was a scrimmage game for the Cleveland Browns. For years and years, they used to beat the snot out of them all the time.
Right.
And, of course, the Steelers aren't the team they used to be, as they're going to find out this year.
Right.
If we could have just won yesterday, I don't care how they would have done it. But anyhow, getting back to the main thing, LG, if they don't pull Weeden out, then, well, just like the seasons back to 99, here we go again.
You don't have any hopes of the Cleveland Browns winning with Brandon Weeden playing quarterback?
No, I don't.
You completely
really don't,
lost all faith in the Weeden experiment should be ended here in Cleveland, right?
Well, it's like beating a dead horse to death, No, he doesn't have it.
I agree.
At Oklahoma, he might have been great, but there was between night and day between college and the pros, as a lot of guys find out. number one picks that didn't work.
Well,
no matter what team it was,
You got to remember where the what was Weeden in college? Is that the Big 12? I mean, they're not famous for defense in the Big 12.
And I don't think it was state. I don't know. They weren't Big 10.
Was it the Big 12? I'm pretty sure, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And Oklahoma State, and Colt McCoy went to Texas. I mean, obviously they were the same division of football. They're really not known for the defenses in those leagues. In the Big 12, they don't play the type of defenses like an Ohio State or a Michigan plays. If Weeden was, at Michigan and he had to face Ohio State, he would have got the schnout beat out of him. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, absolutely.
But what I'm trying to say is they had a completely different thing happening at Oklahoma State. I mean, you could say Weeden was successful. He was successful. But like you just said, the NFL is a whole different caliber. People don't realize the difference in speed, and it doesn't matter what college you came from. If you were at Ohio State, Michigan, the Big 10, the Big 12, whatever the case may be, the speed difference coming from college to the NFL is second to none. I mean, these are the best of the best that make
they're
it.
the cream of the crop.
Absolutely.
I think there's something like 8,000 universities and colleges in the United States, and these guys that come to the NFL are the cream of the crop.
You're talking at 1.5% of college players make it into the NFL.
So it's a whole different. And of course, one of the things that I've always believed in, it's like it ain't the size of the dog in the fight; it's the fight in the dog.
Right. Absolutely.
Josh Cribbs, prime example. I want to take Benjamin and the other guy that was doing the returns and say, watch the films of Josh Cribbs. He got the ball. He went up to full speed and didn't stop. He didn't slow down. He went full bore.
Right. That's
unfortunately he's not playing now.
That's a little bit of the problem that Trent Richardson's having, too. I mean, when he gets the handoff and he starts this jiving and chucking stuff, he needs to hit that hole, and he needs to hit it hard. Like you saw Montario Hardesty last season. When he got the football, Montario took off running with that football. You didn't see him doing all this dancing, and it bothered me a little bit yesterday. Even when Trent Richardson was in the open field, he did this chucking and jiving move stuff. Come on, man. Get the ball, put your head down, and run like hell. That's the way you play football. Maybe
he didn't have somebody like, maybe the holes weren't there for him like Vickers would create or whatever. I'm not sure. I'm not ready to write Richardson off by any chance yet. But
I'm not writing him off, but I just think when you brought up Benjamin and you brought up the other guy doing the kick returns yesterday, I think it just reminded me that I'm not writing off Richardson, but I'm saying he needs to do the same thing you just said with Benjamin. They need to get that ball, and they just need to run, man. Stop dancing around. Don't look pretty. Run people over and get to the end zone. That's the key. That's how you play football.
One other thing, you brought up a name that's another one that really bugs me is Hardesty.
Right.
He came out of Texas, some school out in the western part, but he's never made it a full season.
No. All right, well, listen, man, hang on one more time, Jim. We're going to switch over and take another call. Don't leave, Jim. We'll come back to you.
I'm with you.
All right.
Hang on.
Cleveland Sports 360, you got LG. Who do we have here?
LG, Joe Monaco. What's going on,
man?
Hey,
Joe, how you doing all the way from Memphis? Joe Monaco, ladies and gentlemen, or Nashville. Where you at, Joe? Nashville?
In Nashville, Music City, LG, Music City, yep.
So, Joe,
you
obviously you watched the Browns play yesterday, and you've been a lifelong Cleveland Browns fan. You're from the Cleveland area. What was your take on this game?
It was like a replay of last year's opener against Philadelphia.
Well, he missed.
I'm telling you.
One more interception, it would have been a cloning. You know, Joe?
It's crazy, bro. I mean, you got number 3. He looks like he moves in concrete cleats, man. I'll tell you. He just doesn't move. He just gets sacked back there. And let me throw this out for you real quick. The Bears yesterday, right?
Right.
They got Mark Trestman, first-year coach. Yeah, he's assistant coach. He knows how to run offensive court. Being offensive coordinator before with us. Previously. But here's where I'm getting my point at. You've got them beating Cincinnati yesterday in a new system. Those players never played before, right? And then you've got Jay Cutler, who was a franchise, a good quarterback. He's better than what we have, and they beat Cincinnati yesterday.
Right.
And I don't see any marked improvement in Weeden at all. Number 3 is not showing any improvement at all. He's throwing behind the receivers, overthrowing, and getting sacked.
He missed wide open screenplays too, Joe.
And you know what? What gets me so mad too, LG, is what gets me so mad is that he doesn't have a touchdown. They were set up for a screen yesterday with 2 of the offensive linemen. I think it was Thomas and Greco out in front of Trent Richardson, and he just threw the ball over their heads.
Right.
He has no touchdown.
No, that's why we've seen him suffer in the red zone so much last year. He was last in the red zone. He doesn't have that. He thinks he's throwing all fastballs. He thinks this is Major League Baseball or something. But Joe, let me ask you a question. You brought up an interesting point that this is Mark Trestman's first year being a head coach in the NFL. Obviously, he was never a head coach before. But I got to tell you something. This is the same guy that worked a little bit with Bernie Kosar. Isn't that right?
That's correct. Yeah, when Bernie was here.
You're talking
quarterback coach.
You're talking about 2 highly intelligent football IQ individuals. Bernie Kosar is one of the smartest quarterbacks to ever play the game of football. And when I'm not trying to degrade Brandon Weeden. He might be a genius when it comes to his business degree that he got at Oklahoma State. Unfortunately, everybody's got a business degree. They're not doing much with it these days. But when it comes to football, Bernie Kosar is one of the smartest guys, and he worked with Trestman. So obviously Trestman was able to communicate with a Jay Cutler who has a higher football IQ than Brandon Weeden by far. Wouldn't you agree with that, Joe?
I agree with you 100%.
Because
you gotta look at the system, LG, is brand new to all those guys.
Right.
It's a first-year system.
And they were able to pick it up, and they were able to be successful. And as you said, the Cincinnati Bengals are not a schlock team. This team was favored to take the AFC North this year by just about every expert that ranked any football team. Would you agree with that, Joe?
I agree. I totally agree.
But I go back to Trestman for a minute. This guy looks like a professor sitting over there on the sideline. So I'm starting to question why Jimmy Haslam would settle for a guy like Rob Chaszynski. Rob Chaszynski did not have a stellar career in Carolina, and he had a damn good quarterback with Cam Newton. So I'm a little bit concerned. Is Chaszynski, in your mind, the right coach for the Cleveland Browns, Joe?
I would say offensively, I think he's better than Shermer was last year. I think he'll show that. But I think the overall, I think Jimmy Haslam froze when he couldn't get Chip Kelly, and he had to pull somebody, he had to bail somebody, and there was nobody left other than the big names like
Arians was still out there. Bruce Arians was out there. Bruce Arians was still available, Joe.
That's correct.
I would have took Bruce Arians in a heartbeat to come back to Cleveland. He was here once as an offensive coordinator, and I would have took him in a heartbeat and made him a head coach. We saw what he did with a rookie quarterback, Andrew Luck. Of course, it's Andrew Luck and the Indianapolis Colts when Pagano got sick last year. Bruce Arians, you settled for a guy that is a Cleveland Browns fan, and you made him the frickin' head coach of this team. Do you think that it was a smart move, Joe?
No, I don't think it was. I don't think it was a smart move. Let me tell you something. It's because you see the Cleveland franchise since 1999 over and over and over again makes mistakes. Front office makes mistakes. It goes with the top of the owner. You got to give Haslam a benefit of a doubt still, because it's But I'm saying since 1999, it's been horrible. Look at Arians did when he was at Pittsburgh, right? They were flowing, right?
Right.
Look and what he was doing when he was in Cleveland when he was here as an assistant. Same deal. Right.
And he was damn near successful yesterday with the Arizona Cardinals. They didn't lose by much. Unfortunately, they did lose, but it wasn't by much. It was a couple of points, Joe. When you lose a game by 3 points and you scored 24 points, the other team scored 27, or if it's 31-28, whatever the case, at least you could say your team put up an honest fight for that football game.
That's correct. And you know what? I tell you what, I see improvement on the Browns defense. I think I would take and put Scrine back in the slot and either put this kid Owens or McFadden on the outside.
You know what, Joe? I've seen some improvement in stopping the run. What really has me bothered with this Cleveland Browns defense, and if you think about yesterday's game, Tannehill was able to pick apart the Browns with these intermediate short passes. I saw the same problems happening throughout the entire preseason. We do not have the linebacker core that is back there dropping back and doing pass coverages, Joe. You know,
right.
I mean, we're gonna pressure the quarterback a lot. We don't have a good secondary, so if we're failing, you know, and Ray Horton was unsuccessful with the Carolina. I'm lying. He was unsuccessful with the Arizona Cardinals last year because when his defenses didn't get those blitzes, and he had a heck of a good defense, Joe. They burned him big, and there was games where they scored 50 points on the Arizona Cardinals last season with Ray Horton in there.
You're right, and I tell you what, I like the defensive line, but I think I have to criticize the Browns organization to take one less defensive lineman and get a stud. You could have got Asamoah from San Francisco, and he would look just fine with number 23 on the other side.
That's it, man. You got 23 out there on an island by himself with no supporting cast. Now T.J. Ward's hurt again. T.J. Ward's hurt again, Joe. What's that going to do to our defensive secondary?
Well, I don't know, man. They're going to have to make some moves or do something because there's not enough depth in that secondary. That thing has been a glaring weakness for a long time, until when Hayden got here. But it's like always missing half the secondary. And I blame the Browns organization. They didn't draft anybody good. They took McFadden in the third round, fourth round, wherever it was. And they didn't go use free agency. You know, they're all enamored about defensive line pressure. I mean, I like the guys we got, Kruger and Desmond Bryant. They're going to be beasts, but you know, we need pass coverage, man.
I'll tell you right now, we need a couple linebackers that can play in space and get there and make a difference for those intermediate and those slant passes. And we need some defensive secondary help. Otherwise, Flacco. You know what, Joe? I'm holding my, yesterday after the game, obviously you probably didn't hear the DeQuell Jackson do the post-game press conference, but DeQuell Jackson says our defense can stop any running attack. We are the best at stopping the run now, which is good, good for you. But you know what? I'm not going to say that just because they stopped the run with the Miami Dolphins, Joe. I mean, we're going into Baltimore this coming Sunday. I want to see if they can stop. Exactly. There you have it, man. Yep. I mean, that's a pretty bold statement for DeQuell to make. I give him a lot. DeQuell Jackson's a great guy. He's a great linebacker. He's been the heart and soul of this Cleveland Browns defense for the last few years. You got to give him a lot of credit, but I think he got a little too cocky making that statement yesterday. And if anybody on the Ravens organization heard that,
yeah, I hear you, bro. They'll hang up in a locker room,
Yeah. So what bothers me going into Sunday, Joe, is Flacco's going to pick us apart with the short intermediate stuff. And as you just mentioned, one of the greatest receivers coming out of the backfield happens to be Ray Rice. If Ray Rice gets into the middle of that field and they connect, I don't know if anybody's going to be able to catch him,
Sure. We don't have Peyton Manning, but how did Baltimore's defense just disintegrate in a half or a quarter and a half? They just got disintegrated.
Yeah, the first half of that game, they looked very competitive. Manning was only down by 3 going into the locker room. I knew that wasn't enough. But Flacco just wasn't able to, the Denver defense really stepped it up big. And there's the key, Joe. The Denver defense was able to step up big and stop Flacco and his Ravens. And they were short Von Miller, who's suspended for 6 games for the substance abuse, and Champ Bailey has an injured foot, man. So there's 2 key big-time players. If we lose 2 key big-time players, Ataba Rubin was out yesterday, which is good because, it showed us we could still stop the run. Again, it was the Miami Dolphins run. Joe, if any team the Cleveland Browns were going to win the home opener against, it should have been the Miami Dolphins. Do you agree?
I totally agree. I want to see Brandon Weeden now. I want to see him with there's 7 new starters. I want to see Chudzinski and Weeden and North Turner get a game plan together where they exploit Baltimore's defense or rookies or where guys are playing on their defense and exploit their weaknesses. Same thing Miami exploited from Buster Stein.
I don't think it's going to happen, Joe. Do you think that Brandon Weeden has what it takes to be an NFL quality quarterback, Joe?
At this point, like I said, I haven't seen improvement at all. So I don't know yet. We'll give him benefit of the doubt after his Baltimore game. If he can't get anything going together offensively, it looks like the NFL offensive team's trying to work. Then he better put Jason Campbell in at halftime.
Well, let me tell you something, Joe. Again, you being in Nashville, you're probably unaware of this, but Chazinski's sticking with those guys on the offensive line going into Baltimore. Can you believe it?
I tell you what, Cousins had a horrendous game. Who was that tackle that we got from Baltimore a couple of years? Tony something. He reminded me every other play of him, man, when he was playing with us and we pulled him at right tackle. Remember that guy?
Right. But what about Matthew Schwartz yesterday? Mitchell Schwartz. I mean, Schwartz didn't even look like the same guy we saw last year.
And let me ask you this. I'm talking about these guys and their time, and I disagree. What the Browns have done in the last preseason games leading up to the first game, they need cohesiveness. They need tightness. Just benching and not starting your starters for the whole game is baloney.
Right.
What I'm looking at is they should be playing at least a whole first half as you started to get some cohesive. Yesterday's game looked like a preseason game to me on the offensive side.
Joe, our offense. I've seen high school offenses operate. You go to Menor High School over here, Joe, and you see this kid throwing the football. Menor's offense looked a hell of a lot better than the Cleveland Browns offense did yesterday, and that's a professional team making a lot of money, man.
I tell you what, I would rather have Penny Dighton back there calling the signals, and Urban Meyer's offense looks 10 times better than the Browns.
Absolutely. But, Joe, let me ask you one question, man. You really think that Jason Campbell should be the guy if they do decide to sit Weeden, or do you think this Hoyer has a chance, especially with a weak offensive line? I really like this Hoyer's running ability, man.
I like Campbell because he can run, too. And I think defenses know that Brandon Weeden can't run.
Yeah,
and they just have one less weapon.
So Weeden brings no plausible threat to the football field whatsoever, does he, Joe?
No, he doesn't. He's just been very disappointing. And I think like Jason Campbell, he's got experience. He knows how to read defenses. He can move and he can outrun. I mean, he could run a dozen more times than what Weeden did yesterday when the pressure was on.
Absolutely, and if you call that running. But, Joe, let me ask you, what's your prediction? Do you think that the Browns can travel to Baltimore and come back victorious?
I tell you, it's going to be very difficult, and it's been a bad place for them to win in the past. We don't even have Phil Dawson to get a field goal for us. But I tell you what, Billy Cundiff made some good, extra point in a field goal yesterday. But you have to give him time. But I'm just saying is overall, I think it'll be a very difficult win to pull out. It can be done if the offense executes and there's not major penalties on the whole team as the game goes on, and their defense puts the pressure on Flacco, and they stop the intermediate pass, like you said. I think they have a chance.
That's the key right there, man. And I don't think we're going to be able to. Flacco's a hell of a lot better talented guy than Ryan Tannehill. I'm not taking anything away. Tannehill's only in his sophomore season, but Flacco's a seasoned veteran, and when he sees the kind of openings that Tannehill saw yesterday, can you imagine what he's going to do with that football, Joe?
That's right, but let me ask you this question. We're talking about Tannehill. Now, you've seen him play last year, correct?
Yes.
And you've seen him play yesterday, right?
Right.
Did you see any marked improvement in his playing from last year?
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. Yep. Undoubtedly, without a question. Look at his Mike. What's the guy's name? Mike Sherman, the offensive coordinator, was his college offensive coordinator that they brought into Miami. So obviously, there's a comfortability level there that Tannehill's feeling right now, and it's looking good. But Joe, before I let you go, man, because we're coming up on the end of the show, I just got to ask you: can the Tribe get this wild card spot, man?
I tell you what, I think they can if they have to keep taking 2 out of 3, let's say at least in every series, and not get beat in a series. take 2 out of 3 or 3 out of 4. But I think the problem I see is not a consistent. I mean, they did his first 2 games against the Mets where they scored runs, and they couldn't score against Dice K. He got an ERA of 7.7 something yesterday,
Yeah.
and they couldn't score any runs off of him.
Well, I was surprised that's been the Tribe's problem for most of the season, if I'm not mistaken, Joe. I know you and I have chatted on Facebook before that the inconsistency of this offense. We needed another big batter or two, and obviously,
we needed that.
We could have been right up there with the Detroit Tigers with 1 more or 2 more big bats.
Well, I'll tell you what, you're right. And you know what? I mean, Verlander's had a horrible year this year, LG.
Right.
And I think if it wasn't for Scherzer having a phenomenal year, the Indians would be right there. And if the Indians would have just played 500 against them, they'd be right in the division race.
Absolutely.
And it's just too bad because of that. I mean, even if we were 10-8 like we were last year, would have been great this year.
Right.
But I think, their phenomenal lineup is just phenomenal. But you know what? If we get into the wild card, it's a new season, and it's a different ballgame. Teams are pressing. And you just can't make any mistakes. So
I just hope it's a wild card game when our offense is on, Joe.
I do too. I'll tell you what, right now, you have to agree with me on this, I think, LG. Without a doubt. The guys are expected to win, like Jim Leland's team, Texas' team, Ron Washington, stuff like that. But my vote this year for manager in the AL has got to be Tito.
All right, man, there you have it. Joe Monaco, all the way from Nashville. Thanks for calling, Joe. I got to switch back over and end the show with this guy, Jim. Hopefully he's still on hold. God bless you, Joe. Give me a call after. Call me next Monday night, man, and we'll hash out a little bit of this Ravens game. What do you say?
You got it, LG. Anytime. I'll call you.
All right, man. Joe Monaco, all the way from Nashville, ladies and gentlemen. Jim, are you still with us, man? Jim. Hey, Jim, you there, man?
I'm still here.
Turn down your computer again.
I did.
Sorry about that, Jim. That was another caller all the way from Nashville, but we got about 1.5 minutes, Jim. In closing,
okay, I'm going to make this real quick.
Go ahead.
Supposedly, for Weeden, the offense was built around what made him comfortable playing.
That's correct.
That's comfortable for him, huh? So that answers our question. They build it around where he's comfortable, and apparently, no matter how comfortable he is, it ain't going to work.
He did not look very comfortable to me there yesterday. Did he look comfortable to you, Jim?
No, not at all. LG, the pass protection's great. In the pocket, you and I both could look like great quarterbacks.
Absolutely.
Throw a football.
And I got to tell you one more thing before we let you go, Jim. And I really appreciate spending this time with you. You were a class act and, a diehard Browns fan just like myself. But I just got to say, you're right. This offense was supposed to be built to Brandon Weeden's strengths. But you brought up a valid point a second ago. If everybody had the protection and you could stand there all day. I disagree with that just a little bit, Jim, because one of Brandon Weeden's weaknesses is he's a slow decision maker. And being a slow decision maker lets those defensive backs that other teams have that the Cleveland Browns are still lacking close in on that pass coverage just a little bit tighter. And when he's staring down a receiver, that's only going to help. So I think Brandon Weeden has a weakness in reading the defense still, and I think he's still keying in on them receivers. What's your thought, Jim?
I agree with you totally. It's the bottom line, LG. He's not NFL material. It totally boggles my mind why he's still there. I think that guy, the third string, I can't remember his name.
Brian Hoyer.
I really think they ought to take a good look at him. Or Campbell.
We're going to see. All right, man. Well, thanks for calling, Jim. Give us a call next week. We'll hash out a little bit about the Baltimore Ravens game, man, okay?
I'll be there, LG, and I'll be with you through the week online.
All right, thanks a lot. There you have it, folks. Thanks for Jim calling in tonight. Thanks for Joe Monaco calling in. That was another edition of the Cleveland Sports 360 show. I want to thank my man back there, Jeff Leaf, on the Wheels of Steel. And don't forget, tomorrow night from 6 to 7 p.m., it's the You Gotta Be Freaking Kidding Me show. I guarantee you Leaf's going to have some stories to tell you this week that you're just going to sit back and look in the mirror and tell yourself, you gotta be freaking kidding me. Until next week, ladies and gentlemen, have a great week. Be blessed. Let's hope that the Cleveland Browns can get it right heading into Baltimore. The first thing they got to realize is Brandon Weeden is not the guy. Good night. God bless. We'll see you next Monday night right back here on StreamingSportsTalk.com at 7 p.m.